I always think of this because I ask my podcast guests a similar thing. But what's sticking with me now is be ruthless with your time. There's a lot of people out there, like people who you speak to, whether in personal or in business, and like, we need to catch up sometime. If they're not getting the diary out there and then, don't waste your time chasing them. And the same with people you're doing business with. Some people try and tell the story of, yeah, never give up till you get a no, always keep chasing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. But if someone's not getting back to you,
Yeah, it's not worth it.
they're already telling you something, or you're going to come up, you've had to work hard to convince them to work with you, and you're constantly going to be up against it. And sure, 5% of the time people will be like, oh, the client I worked the hardest for is the best relationship I've got. That is the minority.
Before we dive into today's episode, please hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us grow and inspire more people on their journeys. Thank you.
Hello, Jonny. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to the show.
Hey, Thomas, my absolute pleasure, mate.
So, Jonny, for those who don't know you, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Jonny, founder of the Story Club, which is a video agency for founder-led content for business owners who want to show more of their personality, the personalities within their business, allow their customers to kind of represent them if they're not confident talking about themselves. And I also run the Story Club podcast, where I speak to founders, find out more about them, and try and draw out their wisdom, like all podcasts these days.
And I always like to get to know you better about your background. So can you tell us more about where you come from, maybe something about your childhood and stuff like that?
Sure, yeah. So I'm from Glasgow in Scotland, and I would be lying if I said marketing is always where I saw myself ending up. If I was to go back to childhood, it's kind of funny. I've actually found old video footage of, when my mum has a bunch of USB sticks, and it's all old video cassettes for anyone born after the 2000. That was things you had to put into a video player.
Yeah.
Not very good at breaking down what it is. But it's now been moved digitally. So we found old videos of me running around with a video camera, being really, really annoying, really, really intense, shoving the camera in people's faces.
Yeah.
So it's actually led quite naturally to where I am, funnily enough. At some point, I will share some of those videos on LinkedIn, but I have to get past the fact that I'm wearing like big glasses, I've got very ginger hair, and my voice hasn't broken yet. So it's funny seeing them, not remembering them at all, and the evolution to actually start doing videos. So that's me doing the Brandy thing of trying to make the story make sense. But even for me, that was a nice surprise.
And were maybe your parents like videographers or something like that?
No, nothing like that. My mum was marketing director at the family business, which was a chain of men's retail stores, like men's clothing, suits, casual wear, that sort of thing. And my dad was an entrepreneur, does his own business, which is sort of in the steel fastenings kind of way. So I guess you could say I grew up with entrepreneurial parents, or at least parents, an entrepreneurial grandparent. And they both had freedom, is the best way to put it. So I think I always knew I wanted to do my own thing. That was always in the back of my mind, but I never necessarily knew what that was going to be.
Yep.
So for relevance sake, school, university, great times from a social aspect. From leading down the path where I am, less so.
And what did you study actually at university? Was it something creative?
So no, again, really showing off a lack of that creative gene here, but I'll maybe talk about that later, about the creative side of things. But right now, I really enjoyed modern studies in school, so I went off to university to do politics and international relations.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that one.
No, I was very fortunate. I had some great modern studies teachers, and there is something, maybe not the state of the world now, but there is something really cool, at least then, being in Glasgow, seeing what politicians, like the way the world kind of connected together, kind of way countries negotiated with one another. Like it was just an interesting understanding of the world. Then, and don't get me wrong, when I went off to university, at the end of the day, it's what they call a social science degree, which are a bit of a butt of a joke especially as degrees are being more and more devalued. Things like engineering, law, that you need them for, people understand. Social sciences could be considered a bit of a piss take. You're just going to uni for a good time, which I did have, don't get me wrong. But so it was still good to continue that, but it's nothing I couldn't do. I could have skipped uni and read all the books in the curriculum and still got the same level of education.
Yeah, I understand. And when you studied that course, what was your idea of what would you like to become afterwards?
Oh, Thomas had no idea.
You
So
didn't know?
university when I was 17, underage, for the first couple of months. Luckily, my brother let me borrow his passport so could still enjoy Freshers Week. But uni really was just, I've no regrets, but it was just a good time. I definitely fell in the camp of turning it into almost a 4-year holiday. I made good friends, joined sports teams, took advantage of the social side massively, which is probably why I became the social secretary of the lacrosse team. Never turned up to the game, turned up to all the parties. I was organising them. But I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to go back to Glasgow. I knew I didn't want to stay in Aberdeen. So what a lot of my friends did, and it's, it probably carved the path out a wee bit more. I moved down to London. And again, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I ended up doing the classic. When people first move down to London and they don't really know what to do, they've nothing set up, you've got two options. You can either become an estate agent or work in recruitment.
Okay.
So, funnily enough, those were the two jobs that I got offers for. But I'm very fortunate that...
I was going to add a third one. You can also work in a pub.
True, yeah, but I think I worked in retail my whole life leading up to that point, and customer-facing roles. In a pub, I've been a bad customer at times. I'm sure, like everyone has. I see what they have to deal with. Yeah. I'm not sure it's the path I wanted to go. No, but I ended up being very fortunate. Sorry for the listeners that I've clearly got a bit of hay fever and I'm sniffing. But I was quite fortunate. The company I got an internship with, really, I was very fortunate. It was a small startup recruitment consultancy, because you hear the horror stories about the big recruitment firms, your Hays or whoever, who chew you up, spit you out. I was very lucky. It was a company I'm happy to give a shout out to, Daniel Marks, ran by the CEO, Dan Matthews. He was 35 at the time, which is scary because that's how old I am now. The managing director, Robin, who was 30. The year before I joined, they took on 2 interns. And in the year I joined with somebody else was interns. So it was like that startup mentality. And what made it really cool was it was in the advertising agency space. So we were working with the likes of Ogilvy, BBH, Above the Line Agency, Through the Line. And you could say that was my introduction to the marketing world, because my clients were heads of account management, account directors, account managers, all these things. Because back to that, I hadn't really done any creative things up to this point. I am probably more of an account handler by nature. My favorite thing about the job is spending time with people, building relationships, and drawing out stories. So that was definitely where those seeds were planted. And Dan and Robin were very good trainers. Like, working in recruitment is a very good trial by fire for any industry, right? Because any sales job, I'm trying to convince you to buy something. In recruitment, not to call the people you're working with products, but you're trying to convince the product to go into somewhere and trying to convince that somewhere to buy into the product. So you're trying to work both sides. You're negotiating for both sides. And in recruitment, you get given your own desk. You're given a lot of trust. You've got to manage the finances, the people, the outreach, the sales. So it was like an unbelievable experience. I knew recruitment wasn't for me because I didn't want to be very few people trust recruiters. And I didn't want to spend my whole life convincing people I was one of the good ones, because you're already up against it.
Yeah.
So even though I knew we were one of the good agencies and good people, I didn't want to spend 10, 20, 30 years with people. The moment you reach out to them, they've got their backs up a little bit. So I had a great time, learned a lot about the agency world. And then that was kind of my first real introduction to marketing agencies.
And how did you actually land such a job? Because Since you studied something different, was it difficult to get this type of job, or you had already some experience?
No, because I worked on like a retail shop floor. They knew I was able to like communicate with people and
Oh, okay.
sell in, and things like that are quite relationshipy. There's probably two types of personalities drawn to recruitment: salespeople and relationship builders.
Mhm.
And that's black or white. There's probably people in the middle. So when I went in, they could tell I was a sociable guy, conversationalist. I think, like I said, I probably have a background and personality similar to a lot of account handlers.
Mhm.
So they saw where I'd fit in the industry or in their business.
Yes, yes. So did this job then convince you that you want to continue working in some type of marketing job?
Well, definitely for ages. I'm obviously running my own business now, but for a while, one of my big dreams was to work for BBH, which is one of the biggest advertising agencies in the world. And I just like loved going in to visit them. They've got the catchphrase, which is something I try to carry through my life as well. When everybody zigs, zag. So when everybody's doing something, start doing the opposite.
Mhm.
And when we get to LinkedIn, we'll talk about that, I'm sure.
Mhm.
But it was just, you went into this place, the buzz, the vibe, the energy, there was something really infectious about it. And like I said, I'd worked on a retail shop floor, which anyone will tell you isn't the most exciting of places. So that was, for the while, definitely my dream, to work for a big advertising agency. Now, I
Yeah.
wasn't sure how I was going to do it, but, and even then, I think in the back of my head, like, I'm not going to, but part of me, that still sounds
Mhm.
amazing and exciting. Just because I spent a lot of time with my clients and candidates.
Yeah.
And the way their enthusiasm, the way they spoke about the projects, the campaigns they worked for, that was infectious. So I definitely, again, just continued pushing me to
Mhm.
that path of marketing.
Yeah, yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, you even traveled and moved to other countries and places, right?
Yeah, so so I knew I didn't want to do recruitment, and I knew that in my mind, so this would have been 2015. In my mind, the window for traveling was closing. Career breaks, people, digital nomads, that's a lot more common now. Back then, I knew how, because I was dealing with CVs and employers, I knew how employers viewed CVs, like gaps in a CV. So
Oh,
career breaks and that kind of thing, like it was not looked upon well. Like it was actually judged.
okay.
Whereas now people understand it a lot more, right?
Mhm.
So I would have been like 25, 26. And I was like, I want to go traveling. And so I went traveling for 6 months. Really cool. Did a lot of Asia and that kind of thing. But I was right, because when you're doing the hostel traveling thing, the majority of people were either 17, 18, people fresh out of school taking the gap year before university, or, 21, 22, people who just left university and were taking a gap before their job. So I definitely felt like older. And this was at 26, which is insane now. But it was really cool. I'm not going to say, I went away and it changed me and all these kind of things. I went to some amazing countries. I saw some really cool things. I met some really cool people. And there was a point, because I was doing it quite intensely, week by week, trying to fit in as much as possible.
Mhm.
There was 2 weeks where I did just take a break on the chill-in hostel in one of the Kohs in Thailand.
Nice.
I give it a shout because it was such a good time, run by an Irish guy who just packed it all in and decided to set up a hostel. But I spent 2 weeks just chilling there because they had a kind of beachfront bit. But genuinely, first world problem, right? 5, 6 days in, I was like, this is boring.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I was so bored. And that's when I kind of realized, maybe, 50, 60, when I'm more tired, like retirement will be a good idea.
Mhm.
But everyone thinks they want to retire, they want to do the lowest effort thing for the maximum income. And I realized that's boring.
Mhm.
Like, nobody is going to be happy or fulfilled doing that. So that's when I was like, right, I need to start making plans for when I get back.
Yeah. And also, since you've got this experience, because I've never done that, is that something that you would recommend to maybe students fresh from university or people who don't know maybe what type of career to pursue?
100%. I'm not going to lie and say it's going to help you figure out your career, because it's not. But traveling's just one of the coolest things you can do, right? Everyone, I think one of the big problems right now is everyone just knows their little world, their little bubble.
Mhm.
But when you go to other countries, you experience other cultures, and you stay aware. You're not just going getting hammered every second of every day, because then it becomes a blur. But if you really take in these amazing places with their own history, their own identity, it's just unreal. I think it does expand your mindset and give you an appreciation that your world, your city, your country isn't the all and end all.
Yeah, I can only agree with that. Yeah. And out of curiosity, you went to Southeast Asia, right?
Yeah, I did.
And what was the reason specifically for this? Is it because it's like a general nomad kind of area on a map, or
so it's become a nomad area. Back then, it was just where the lost souls and the travelers went. But so it was just nowhere in the world I'd done. Like as a kid, I was very fortunate. We went to America a fair amount, Spain, Europe, those kind of things on the doorstep. Just never done it.
Mhm.
So when I went traveling, it was New York, Canada, Los Angeles, New Zealand, Australia, Bali, Singapore, Thailand, and Hong Kong.
Wow.
So
it's good you remember all of them so quickly.
well, it's because I've said it so many times through the years. But in Australia, I was quite fortunate. I knew a couple of people, so it was good to catch up with them. One of my old school friends lived in Hong Kong, so it was nice to like see people I hadn't maybe seen for 2 or 3 years. But it was the unknown. It was these are places I've never been, I've heard about, and also they were classic traveler places. You knew you could go and stay in a hostel, and you'd find a lot of like-minded people, people who were up for sightseeing, traveling, doing the tourist kind of things. So that's what led me down those ways. And really, like, I do desperately want to go back. It's just finding time.
You know, to be honest, I spoke with some people and even seen like on social media or LinkedIn or connecting with others. It's been on my mind as well, because I've never been to Southeast Asia. Maybe not necessarily to move there, but at least to visit the area. So that is something I can definitely relate to.
Well, it's because it's expensive to get over there, but once you're there, traveling around internally is quite cheap. So it's the sort of thing I'd almost want to do. This just says a lot about my intense personality. I'd almost want to do it the same way as I did last time. Maybe 3 weeks, but every 3 days, kind of hopping to try and see as many places and experience as many different things as possible.
Yeah, it sounds great. Hopefully it will work out for you. And then coming back to when you were in that hotel and thinking that this is not the way how you basically want to spend your life, what was then your plan once you come back?
Well, funnily enough, I remember exactly when it was as well, because it would have been in Australia. And I was like, right, I need to start making plans for when I get back. And like I said, I knew how employers viewed a gap in the CV. So I knew a lot of people who did this program called the Mountbatten program. It's a work-study program for people outside of the US. It lets you work and study in New York for a year. Or for Americans, they get to go to London for a year. So I knew a few people who did it, and it was something I wanted to do for years as well. But again, the average age was probably 22, 23. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. And I did. So basically, the reason I remember it is because I was in Australia. I didn't have any nice clothes. I was obviously living out like a traveler's backpack. So I had to go buy a shirt and a tie just for the photo to send in. And I sent my application, did the interviews, and I got in.
Nice.
So I knew the moment I got back from traveling, I'd have about 2 months, and then I was going over to New York in August for the year.
Oh, and sorry, you got in, but you made it sound like it was easy. So was it actually easy, or were you on such a good level, or what is it like to actually get accepted?
I'll be diplomatic because I'm unsure, because it is a charity, but they do make money in some sense from the people paying, and also the companies that they hire out to. I'm sure there's some recruitment fee or anything. So maybe this is just me. Like, anytime I get accepted into something, I almost devalue it because I've just clearly got like an awful opinion of myself because I'm like, how did I get in? So here I am just making excuses. But there was interviews. Maybe my experience is better than I give it credit for, but we all undervalue what we've been through, right? But also when I speak to people in interviews, I do think I come across quite well. So I think that all allowed me to get into this program.
And are you then a type of person who prepares well in advance, or are you someone who just shows up and does kind of freestyle?
For my clients in the video jobs I do now, weeks of preparation, which they can vouch for. For my own stuff, sadly, or I still thrive in the 11th hour, which is kind of a saying for, it's almost another way of saying necessity is the mother of invention.
Yep.
The more urgent something is, like if it's due tomorrow, I'm better. But as I evolve as a business owner, I am trying to get better at structuring my days, time blocking and all that, because when you've got more to do, you cannot do everything in the 11th hour.
Yeah. Understand, yeah. And then I wouldn't want to spend too much time on it and miss on other interesting parts of your journey. So when did you actually get the idea to start your own business?
So that does nicely tie back to New York, because at the end of the day, I ended up working for this financial technology company, which sounds sick on paper, but at the end of the day, really what I was doing was I was looking at an Excel document on one screen and on another and finding discrepancies. Not the most exciting, really cool company, but not the most exciting job. But it was like a little internship, so it was always good.
When you said that, I was expecting some cool fintech startup.
Yeah. It's actually like a massive fintech business that runs a little like a startup. LiquidNet, shout out. So there was also the education side of the program I was telling you about. But after about 3-4 months, we called it the Mountbatten bubble, because the way the program worked is you had about 120 people, 80% from the UK, 20% from other parts of Europe. And you were all in these flat blocks over in Jersey City, so just across the river from Manhattan. And it was a bit like university, like first year of halls, because you could be working, but then your friend's coming up, knocking on the door, everyone's WhatsApping. And it's also that mindset of, oh, we've only got 12 months left in New York.
Yeah.
8 months, 7 months. So everyone's just going for hell for leather, for like going out, boozy brunches, seeing the sights, going to different parts. But after about 3-4 months, something did click. And I was like, again, from being slightly older than everybody else, I was like, this is not what I wanted to get out of New York. I wanted to meet Americans. I wanted to go to events. So I did go on eventbrite.com, meetup.com, and I just started hammering marketing and entrepreneurial events.
Yeah, and networking.
Yeah. I guess I didn't view it as networking. It was just to be around like-minded people. And some of it was, there was a thing called Startup Weekend where you go and you've got Saturday, Sunday, you get team partnered up with people and you come up with an idea and then you've got to pitch it at the end. And some real businesses have actually come from it. So that was my first introduction deeper into marketing, entrepreneurship. And in New York, obviously, it's on steroids. It's these people who've got side projects, side hustle after side hustle. It was 2017, so it was like prime Gary Vaynerchuk time.
Yeah.
So I was on one of the events I went to was where you came up, you got teamed up, you came up with a business and you pitched at the end, and my team won. So we all got a copy of Gary Vaynerchuk's book. It was Jab, Jab, Right Hook.
Yeah.
So I read it, had never heard of Gary before. And at the end of the book, he put his email address. So, like I said, I was on this program. The education was okay. I was doing a job that I wasn't getting much value from. So I was like, fuck it, I've nothing to lose. I'm going to email him. So I emailed him, giving him the whole spiel I just gave you. Hey, I'm on the program. It's okay, blah, blah, blah. And he got back to me. And I got invited to spend a day in VaynerMedia with his team.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So that was class. And that walking into VaynerMedia, again, it's funny how it all ties up nicely looking back. That's when they were starting Vayner Talent, which I don't know if it's around anymore. What they'd done for Gary is they built his team around him, and I got to spend the day with him. 2 videographers, the person who did all the Instagram copy, the Instagram images, the Facebook stuff, the YouTube stuff.
Mhm.
And what Vayner Talent was doing was it was doing that for business owners. So this was
Yeah.
back in 2017. You could say that was a personal branding agency, but they considered it a talent agency. Again, planting the seed for video first, founder led content.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that sounds awesome because to have experience like this with, I don't know, I'm not gonna lie, back then I didn't know who was Gary, but obviously these days Gary is huge.
Which
So,
is hilarious because I hadn't heard of him either. But the moment I saw that, then in every coffee shop I went to, there was always at least one or two people watching his videos on YouTube.
yeah.
It's like the yellow card. The moment you
Yeah,
start
yeah.
thinking about something, you start seeing it everywhere. Love him or hate him. Like I've not watched any of his content in probably 3-4 years. But I think what Gary Vaynerchuk did for a lot of entrepreneurs is priceless. He always went on about legacy. I don't know if he does anymore. But inviting me in to his business,
Yeah.
8 years later, I'm telling you that story.
Mm.
Other people are doing that story. So whilst I don't agree with everything he says, I'll always be grateful for that experience because that continued to take me on this path.
It's a beautiful gesture. Wouldn't expect that, and definitely big motivation for someone to start and maybe see it as some kind of, I'm not saying a goal, but as inspiration, what to achieve or what is possible.
Yeah. And unless I know it's a nice thing is it makes someone gave me that experience,
Mhm.
so it makes me want to do that
Yeah.
for others.
Are you looking to elevate your online presence? Check out Trailblazed, our digital marketing agency. Whether it's standing out on social media, crafting a stunning new website, or developing impactful visuals, Trailblazed has got your back. Visit trailblazed.digital and reach your online potential today.
Do you know what I mean? So it's almost like passing on gratitude and reciprocation and all those things because you know what it meant to you.
Mhm.
So you're like, how can I do this for others?
And was then your plan to come back to Scotland and start your business there, or was it in the London or somewhere else?
No. So the program came to an end and I was back in Glasgow. So the plan was always to go back to New York.
To stay there.
Yeah. So I actually got a flat in March 2020 in New York. Now that's when the pandemic hit.
Oh, perfect timing.
So the whole New York thing fell through, but I ended up still paying rent on a New York flat for a year, so that was fun.
Oh my God. I'm
Yeah,
sorry to
yeah.
hear that.
That was rough.
And sorry,
But-
just out of curiosity, was it because you liked New York or the scene or the people, or why was it that you wanted to stay?
there's definitely something about New York that like it can be exhausting, it can be a rough place, but the energy, if you run a business, like for entrepreneurship, for being around like-minded people, it was just infectious.
Mm.
It's a very cool, vibrant place with a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I'm quite a extrovert, fairly intense personality at times, so it probably suits who I am. But to cover the gap between when I left the program and New York falling through, excuse me, because that would have been 2017 to 2020. I was very fortunate. Like I mentioned, there was a family business, chain of men's retail stores. I went in being a classic millennial. We need to start doing more video content. We need to start doing social media. And a little bit of nepotism. They felt like they had to hire me. So they were like, just run with it.
Mhm.
And that's when I started. Everything I'd done marketing-wise in New York was theory.
Mhm.
In Glasgow, I did get to start putting it into action.
Yeah.
So building up the YouTube, changing, like updating the social media to be a bit more modern, kind of a brand redesign of the online appearance.
Mhm.
And then that's when I started teaching myself video. So going behind camera and then going in front of camera because no one else in the shop floor was going to do it.
Yeah.
And also it's the time I started the podcast because I moved back. I was like, Eventbrite, meetup.com, it's class.
Mhm.
And I went to the ones in Glasgow and it was genuinely awful. Like
Oh.
words cannot, I've still not gone to any events in Scotland really because of it. Now, obviously, things have changed. There's more people who want to start their own business. There's more energy around entrepreneurialism. But it's fair to say Scotland is still quite behind a lot of other places.
Yeah.
And the one event I went to, I would have been about 28, 29 at this point. You had the teenagers or the people in their early 20s who were there to learn with like an eagerness, which is totally cool, but no one for me to really learn from. Or the people in their 50s, 60s, like these old school business dudes who just wanted to hand out their business cards. And that was a stark contrast to, and that was the problem. I'd experienced what you could call the top tier in New York, and then I'd gone down to what was definitely lower to bottom.
Yeah. And
So that's why I started the podcast as an excuse to reach out to business owners.
yeah, it's smart. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you before. You were paying the rent in New York. And if COVID didn't happen, would you end up in there?
Probably, yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that, because
Listen,
that's the time.
like, I'm not one to wallow on things, which is maybe an advantage that comes with age. Like, it happened, but again, this is coming from a position of privilege because I enjoy what I'm doing. Like, I'm living a pretty good life now. If I was in a job I hated and things weren't good, then I'd be like, yeah, I missed out. It was terrible. If I'd gone there, things could have been different. But, you have to make the best of the situation that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I was in a bad situation, but as long as you make that good, then you don't have too many regrets.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows? New York, maybe the Story Club will open a branch there one day. You never know.
Yeah, that's true. I was just about to say that now the loop or circle kind of closes from when little Johnny was playing with the camera, and now he's back with the camera, as you said, filming for social media.
Yeah. It's funny. The word authenticity gets thrown around, but I like when I reflect and the whole journey feels authentic.
Okay.
But there's no, like, it all makes sense. And again, it's something that maybe comes with time. It's funny when you see all the little jigsaw pieces from your past joined together to lead you to where you are.
But
and it makes sense. And you're just like, it's really cool.
I have similar feeling because sometimes, I don't know, do something new at work, but I use some skills or experience that I used before or I had to learn before. And back then I didn't know if it would be actually ever helpful. But now, looking back, I'm actually grateful for those experiences. So that was a great point and something that I can relate to as well.
Well, it's been said by wiser people, even if they've been through massive trauma, after years, they say they don't regret it because it turned them into who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you're happy with who you are, that is easy to say.
Yeah.
But I think it does all those little moments that are bad in the time, they shape your character.
And I like the mindset, definitely. Then let's talk more about your business. You can promote it a bit or just tell us more about it?
Yeah, so I guess we can continue the journey a little bit, how it led to it. So I was obviously doing front-led camera content on the YouTube channel, in the men's retail space, being like, getting models in who were a lot taller and better looking than me, standing next to them, being like, here's how you tie like a navy suit and all that. So with that experience, I just realized where I was working, marketing, for a bricks and mortar 51-year-old company, marketing's never going to be a priority to them. And I wanted to feel like I could grow. And I said that entrepreneurial bug had always been in me. So it was always going to lead to doing my own thing, which led to the Story Club, which, funnily enough, the Story Club was originally called The Social Recipe. And the podcast was called The Story Club.
Mm-hmm.
But because what I knew was social media and video. But then moving with the development the last couple of years of personal branding and the written word's been a bit cheapened by ChatGPT and also ghostwriters to an extent. Because yes, you're depending on the ghostwriter, you're getting the authentic person's story or you're just getting somebody who just copies and pastes their style
Yeah.
on other people. But what you can't fake is videos. So
Mhm.
rather from going from a social media first message to videos, it's more videos with then platform management, distribution strategy, all that sort of thing. So like I said at the start, the Story Club is basically my skill set. It's what I did for myself, doing for other people. Because one of my biggest beefs, and this is rich coming from me, I know, is the loudest voices are always marketers and coaches.
Mhm.
Even Gary Vaynerchuk 5-6 years ago said marketers ruin everything. The moment people went on about TikTok, who rushed it? Marketers. LinkedIn, who's flooding it? Marketers, coaches. And I know a ton of cool founders who are building maybe not that interesting businesses to you and me, but super interesting businesses. Maybe they've been doing it for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but they never talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's about amplifying those voices a bit more, trying to find those voices, helping people find their confidence
Mhm.
in front of camera, but also in their personal story, business story, service story, all those things.
And are there any specific niches that you focus on?
No, I wouldn't actually say there's any niches, to be honest. It comes down to the founder. One of the good things, the really good things about LinkedIn so far is basically all my work's been inbound and word of mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
So with that, it's obviously founders who feel a connection with me or they resonate with me.
Mhm.
And 100% of the time that works both ways. When I meet them, they like me because of my personality, which they connect with, which usually means I'll connect with their personality, which is what happens. So basically, no, it's about the founder. And because they connect and I
Yes.
connect,
Mhm.
that's what works.
Yeah. But I'm curious, filming like a professional, nice looking videos, or even if it's shorts or shorter content, it's not just like that. You need to have some skills when it comes to camera, sound, production, and everything. How did you learn all of this? Or did you have already experience from before?
Well, so it was at Slater's where I was watching YouTube videos and self-teaching, so doing all the things with cameras, lighting, all those bits. But since going my own way, I've had to keep improving.
Mhm.
My content now is better than it was a year ago. A year ago, it was better than it was 2 years ago. So it's honestly, it's something that's come with time. And also moving into running your own business, it's a million times more competitive. I've got
Mhm.
friends who are videographers, and there's obviously other videographers who I don't even know who are unbelievable, beautiful visuals. They're mainly video production guys. Like they have an amazing knowledge of camera settings, lighting, sounds, like 10 times more than myself.
Yeah.
But I've got my skill set and I'm striving to always get closer to them. So I'm always learning more, upgrading my knowledge on lights, sound, locations.
Mhm.
It's just it's what I do, and competition makes me have to be better
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
want to survive. So those are what's
Mhm.
led to that.
And do you do it all by yourself, or have you got a team?
I'm solo founder. Do it all by myself, which I'm happy with. Although don't get me wrong, I've got people who I outsource to for different parts, copywriting,
Yes.
video editing every now and again, because I'm getting to that point 2 years into the business where I'm spending too much time editing and script writing.
Mm.
So I am looking to outsource
Yeah. I
because
can imagine because I don't want to bore you with details about myself, but I studied film, so I know what it's like to do like a production or a short film production or something like that, and the whole crew and pre-production, production, post-production, and hearing that you do everything by yourself, I just find it impressive.
well, it's I think again that's one of the it's not even my USP, but it is to an extent. I am a jack of all trades. Because my history is in a marketing manager. When I went into Slater's, it was as the marketing manager, so it was like strategy for the business. Whereas what I'm super passionate about is video and
Mhm.
getting people on video and that sort of thing. So when someone comes to me, it is the full. We sit down, we talk, we do the strategy, I ask questions, come up with the scripts. It's a full done for you package,
Mhm.
and I do love The thing I love most is back to that account handling side of me is talking to people, building the relationships with them. So really diving deep on them and then working for that end result. I find that very fulfilling, but it's not practical sense. It doesn't make practical sense anymore as a business owner. It does have to come down to starting to outsource more. And again, though, that's just a higher quality problem, right? It's finding the right partners, the right people you can trust. And that's something that also takes time. So again, the journey is definitely the fun part. It's all these learnings and it all comes with time.
And then your plans for the future, do you want to keep it this way or do you want to grow your team? Or what are your plans?
The eternal question. I think...
I mean, besides another location in New York, as we discussed.
Yeah, well, you will. If you're going that way, you've got to go the Empire way, right? I think right now, the business has been working for me from a lifestyle aspect, and I'm not saying I necessarily want to go full-blown Empire, but from kind of where I am now to full-blown Empire, like I could want to go the full way, 5-10 years from now. But right now, I want to get more. The business is at a point, it needs more systems, it needs more processes, it needs more automation, and that naturally leads to growing a larger business.
Yes.
And if that features employees one day, potentially. But right now, I couldn't imagine anything worse. Mainly because I speak to founder friends, and these are people who've started successful businesses, and they just look me dead in the eye and they're like, never hire. so nothing gives you the fear quite like that. So I'll wait for my competition to hire great people, train them, and maybe when those people want to move on, I'll be in a position to be like, yeah, you're class, get over here.
That is smart, And can you think of maybe some client or specific example that you worked with and you would be willing to share? Maybe something that was interesting or challenging or just for some reason worth sharing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess a message to give across for anyone listening or watching is do fun content, because the journey I like to think, the long-term journey I like to think I'm taking clients on is from the base level, which is talking head thought leadership content. It's where people feel most comfortable. You're just getting them speaking about their knowledge, things they already know. But I like to think there'll be a time where they're evolving to being more confident in front of camera to do fun stuff. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because there's two campaigns that come front of mind. One was with this copywriter. Spent the day with him, and we did 5 thought leadership videos, but we did 2 absolute piss take videos. Like, it was him pretending to be a hustle guy. Like, guys, join up to my course for $997. And we hung outside a Ferrari garage, got him taking pictures next to the cars. All the stuff you see, like, the broad that, like, hustlers do. And another one was, like, a day in the life of a copywriter, where he spent 4 hours, having breakfast, staring into the sky, and then just went on ChatGPT. Like, genuinely hilarious. People would call that top-level awareness funnel. Because you're just having fun. You're not telling people what you do. You're not giving results. You're not sharing your knowledge. You're just having a good time. And he got a bunch of leads from those videos. Because they stopped the scroll. They were different. They were interesting. People going through their feeds would be like, what the hell is this? But then they'd go onto his page. Then they'd see his testimonials, his results. And then they'd want to work with him. So, and then there was these brothers who run a personal branding agency. We did a hostage video for them to announce a lead magnet they had coming up. And again, the first thing people saw was like this guy with a bag in his head, hanging behind him. That stuff isn't stupid. That stuff is how you get eyeballs on you. And if you're looking at LinkedIn solely as your funnel, you need that attention-grabbing content, and then your landing page or whatever click-through link people should have. So, yeah, the reason you asked me to mention 2 jobs, those are the 2 main ones, because they are attention-grabbing and they give results. And too many people think attention on video doesn't necessarily equal results. But if you're in a service-based industry, I promise you it does.
And when it comes to coming up with ideas like this, is it you who comes up with the idea, or is it brainstorming together, or it depends?
Both. It's brainstorming, it's coming up with ideas together. The copywriter, to be honest, he came up with those ideas himself. He came to me being like, I want to do these two things. And then obviously I came up with the script and the shot list. So he had the big idea, but then it trickled down into me being like, right, this is how we get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it works both ways. Some people are creative and they come with the idea and I can help translate that into video, or they come to me telling me what their problem is, and then I'll create the creative from it.
Yeah, you made me curious. I will need to Google that campaign because it sounds good, like a good idea.
Well, do you know what? I'll send you the links after, and if you want to include them
in the show notes,
comments, be like, here's the campaigns Jonny spoke about, and you can see.
Yeah. And then I guess the big part of your own company is marketing, obviously, not for clients, but of your company on its own. So actually, what social media channels do you use?
Well, so ironically, Thomas, as a marketer, very bad at marketing my own business. but I'm working on my funnel, shall we say, because my main source of marketing right now is LinkedIn, which is a dangerous game to play because you never want to rely on one platform. But really, it's the content I put out on LinkedIn, connecting with people, having those conversations. So there's the community conversation side, and then there's the content side. But funny time to have the conversation, I'm working on a lead magnet at the moment, which will push people down, and then they'll get put into email sequence, which will push them further through, whether that's the community or where I can just provide support, or to actually doing a shoot with me, or to working in an online capacity. Those are the things. But right now, my marketing funnel is lax.
Yeah, no, but I was going to say that I can recommend to follow Jonny because his content has been impressive. I don't want to say just lately because then it sounds that it wasn't impressive before. But as you would expect from someone who works video like you do, it's beautiful. So give him the follow and connect for inspiration.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess the way to say it is Jonny Rose on LinkedIn, although I do not know what my LinkedIn handle is, but just look for the guy kind of smiling off to the side in a white jumper, and that is me.
It's Jonny S. Rose.
Oh, there you go.
And
nice and simple. Perfect.
I'm always curious, how did you actually discover LinkedIn, or why did you decide for this platform specifically?
Well, funnily enough, I was a LinkedIn user way back in 2012 when I worked for that recruitment company.
Oh, that's a long time.
So that's back when LinkedIn was purely almost seen as a CV or an announcement platform. It's before it became almost social, which we could call it a social platform now, right? But great for businesses. So I go way back with LinkedIn. And even when I wasn't posting about my own business, I'd post every now and again. And like even my friends would be like, oh, you're such a LinkedIn guy. This was like 2016.
Yeah, I think I didn't know what was LinkedIn back then.
No, and don't get me wrong, there was no strategy. It was just kind of random posting. But I couldn't tell you the moment it clicked. And it was really when I started my own business, probably. I was like, right, this is my main funnel. This is going to be my main funnel for connecting and thought leadership. So it just naturally evolved from there. And
as you said before, that you kind of rely only on this platform right now. Do you plan to broaden to some other ones or not yet?
Yeah, social media platforms. My YouTube channel will be one for my own podcast, and also I do need to start doing thought leadership content on it. And also there's a sort of mini micro series I'm thinking about doing, similar to something I did at Slater's, but time will tell on that. And I'm just trying to figure out the right angle for it. And then things like Instagram, Facebook, not right now. There's no urgency around them. LinkedIn's great because you can actually talk directly to your ideal clients. Instagram, if you're doing paid ads or whatever, yes, you can target your ideal clients, but that requires budget.
Yeah.
So, yeah, right now it's about LinkedIn is the main. Also, I need to set up my website. I need to get my website so you start getting testimonials and stuff. So LinkedIn right now, priorities, website, lead magnet, and probably I trialed it I want basically, like, I'm happy to say, I want to start a community, mainly because one post on LinkedIn a day is not enough to actually provide support for video.
Yeah.
If you're trying to help people start videos, do thought leadership, introduce testimonials, bottom funnel stuff, and do educational and fun videos, it becomes very hard with one video.
Yeah,
or one.
I completely understand. And
So with the community, I could actually provide ongoing support with people. And I did try on Slack for a while, and people were really engaged for 2 weeks, but then they dropped off, and none of them have done their own videos since I ran a wee challenge. So there's a problem to be solved there about having a community for people who want to do videos and actually getting them to do videos. And so that's just another problem to figure out.
Yeah, you can add it to the road plan, and hopefully in the future. And then with your rich experience from your LinkedIn journey, can you share some tips, tricks, or advice? How to grow there, how to build your brand?
Yeah, there's better placed people for LinkedIn growth. But speaking to people, the best advice I can give right now, other than do videos, which would be obvious, is have fun with your content. Genuinely, people are finding LinkedIn a grind now. You speak to anyone, nobody says they're enjoying LinkedIn. No one's like, I love LinkedIn, because it's almost become like another job for people. Spend 2 hours in the morning engaging, writing, stay on to comment to your post. Like, the passion is gone, because people keep thinking they have to do this structure, and the buzzword right now, storytelling. Every post you do, you've got to somehow tie a story in. And
it's like a whole science to craft a post.
Totally. And that's why there's experts for it. Even with videos, right? People come to me, even personal brand managers who write their own content and do content for people, because people find it very hard to get out of themselves. It's very, like, ask me to do video content for someone, I'll sit down with them, talk to them, come up with a bunch of ideas. Ask me to do my own video content, I have to really make time and space. So if you're asking people before they post on LinkedIn to go back through their entire life history, find the moments that mattered, find what they've done for clients and all this, and tie that into every single post, people aren't going to post.
Yeah.
Or they're only going to post twice a week instead of 5 times a week, because it's taking up such mental capacity. Whereas if you only give yourself 1 or 2 posts a week that you really have to give deep thought to, and the other 3 is sharing something fun you did at the weekend, or shouting out people you work with who've supported you, or even creating a funny video where you're just having a rant, or you're getting something off your shoulders. Not every post has to be massive value. The valuable posts can be the ones that get you clients. The fun posts can be ones that draw in like-minded people. The problem rant posts can be the ones that divide an audience and get engagement. Like, post about what you want 30-50% of the time. And this is for videos as well. Not every video has to be an education lecture with a covered up as a story. I've done some videos where I've duplicated myself. I'm just like having a laugh. And those are the ones that get the best, like, engagement and people reaching out. So make your content fun again. And because even if you do a post and it bombs, nobody cares, nobody remembers. They're being blasted with posts every single day, and next week you go again.
Yeah, I like it. I was just gonna add it. Just don't be too serious. As you said, sometimes drop something funny or experiment or explore something different. And
because people, the thing is as well, like, there's a lot of good actors out there on LinkedIn who are giving you knowledge to enact. Like, they break down steps, they tell you exactly what you need to do every single day to get a successful LinkedIn post. But then there's also people who are just doing it because they want to mentally exhaust you so that you go to them. So it's about seeing the advice out there, utilizing it, but staying true to you, and then building your own brand and story from that.
Yeah, I like it, and I can only agree with you. What are, Johnny, some of your inspirations? Whether it's some maybe people you follow to inspire you as a people, like from personal development, or inspirations when it comes to content creation or videos. Can you share some?
Yeah, well, so sadly, I've allowed myself to get too wrapped up in my own business. I was talking to someone about this yesterday, that I've almost lost the stuff I used to do, which was self-education, self-development, books I read, YouTube videos I watched. So you've caught me at a time where I'm trying to jump back on that. But people I look to for inspiration, I can give a shout, like Shoaib Ahmed. Videoed with him recently, but I've known Shoaib since I started my LinkedIn journey. He's always giving really helpful, insightful tips. 2 courses that are on that I'm going to be doing this week, because I've blocked out this week for just things like this, is Leah Turner's LinkedIn course, and also Sam Winsbury, who runs Kurogo. He has a school community where he's got an online, like LinkedIn, figure out your offer and all that. So these are people.
Haven't you done episode with Sam as well on a podcast?
Sorry?
Haven't you done episode with Sam as well?
Yeah, I did. So these are people who I liked their message. I reached out to, I joined their communities. I'm going to do their courses because obviously, I guess I do look up to them and I know they know their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what's true to what I'm about to teach myself is true for anyone listening or watching.
Yeah. And can you remember some books that were maybe influential to you?
Oh, not off the top of my head, Thomas. Unfortunately, I've got a pile of books that I need to get through.
Mm-hmm.
And
just busy right now.
There's a pile down here, which is the urgent pile. There's a pile over there. There's 3 next to my bed. Again, though, this is what I was saying, though. I've started time blocking so that, because you can always put things off, being like, I'll read that book on holiday.
Yeah.
But like, what harm is there in getting up 30 minutes earlier, spending 30 minutes in the morning reading?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's understandable.
Like, I can't remember the names of books, but if I go back, there's things like Seth Godin was a guy I listened to all the time around stuff in marketing when I worked at Slater. So he's someone, if his name's coming to my mind immediately, he obviously had an impact.
Yeah. I remember I read, I think the first book I read from him was Purple Cow.
Yeah.
And it was kind of introduction of him to me. And since then, been enjoying all of his books and content. So it's a great tip.
Yeah, Seth's good. One thing he said that always stuck with me was it was around authenticity, which is a massive buzzword these days. But it was something along the lines of, in marketing, people don't mind a story being twisted. Like, not twisted, but over exaggerated to an extent. But what people won't accept is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I talk to a lot of people around. Because especially on LinkedIn, there's a lot of liars.
Yeah. Like people trying to pretend.
Totally. People who, whether they're in pods or whatever, and they inflate their numbers and then they then go and sell courses. After like what Seth Godin, like that quote, to now what I'm seeing out there in the world it's pretty shocking.
Yeah. I understand. I agree. And then, Johnny, tell us when we can expect some updates with your podcast. New episodes coming anytime?
Yeah, funnily enough, that's why, like I said, I was just purely working on my own stuff this week. So, edited an episode yesterday. Nice. I'm going to edit another one tomorrow. Then I'm down in London in a couple of weeks. I'm doing 2 more. So, it is getting back on track. It's just, as business owners, we all deprioritize our own stuff. But again, it's about time blocking, blending all that stuff together. So if we ever have another conversation, Thomas, I should be able to give more advice on business, directing your days and all that. But for right now, I'm happy being honest. It's been a very productive doing things, but adding structure, I think, is key for anyone.
I'm glad to hear that, and glad to hear that the podcast continues and we can expect something in the future.
Yeah. Next week.
Yeah, sounds good. And just to be aware of time as we'll be finishing, is there any maybe final message or something that I forgot to ask you or something that you would like to share?
I think it's funny. I always think of this because I ask my podcast guests a similar thing. But what's sticking with me now is be ruthless with your time. There's a lot of people out there, like People who you speak to, whether in personal or in business, and like, we need to catch up sometime. If they're not getting the diary out there and then, don't waste your time chasing them. And the same with people you're doing business with. Some people try and tell the story of, yeah, never give up till you get a no, always keep chasing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. But if someone's not getting back to you,
yeah, it's not worth it.
they're already telling you something, or you're going to come up, you've had to work hard to convince them to work with you, and you're constantly going to be up against it. And sure, 5% of the time people will be like, oh, the client I worked the hardest for is the best relationship I've got. That is the minority. Do not waste your time on people who
if it's
don't
not
want to
worth
work with you, don't get back with you. Conserve your energy and just be ruthless with your time.
Yeah, thank you. It's
Yeah.
great advice to finish with. But also, Jonny, feel free to promote either yourself or your business. I will add it to show notes, but if you want to promote it, feel free to do so.
Yeah, if you are a founder or business owner and you want to start getting on camera, or you want to start using videos to share your business story, whether that's through your customers or a pitch video or at an event, I'd like to say I'm your guy.
Yeah, and we'll find everything in show notes. I want to say a huge thank you, Jonny. I really enjoyed it. Although it's been a while coming, it was definitely worth it. And I will be more than happy to catch up anytime in the future again. So thank you.
Perfect. Thomas, thank you for having me on, mate. It's been great.
Thanks for listening to Produced by with Tomer. Check out show notes for all the links, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your feedback. Speak soon.